Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 27th of September, and didn't take much to look at that chart. We'd drawn this line from a while back, and once the early sell signals began way back at the beginning of August, we were looking for this to be met. We didn't expect it to be all in one fell swoop, and sure enough, we had that brief little pop. But as soon as the white NBI exposed itself, it was just a matter of time. You can see how the bulls fought through there, but in the end, we meet the target. And that's just a fill of the positive extreme going all the way back to here. And just pretty clean. It sometimes seems crazy because even when we were talking about it up here, it's like, well, how's that going to happen? It's such a long way. And sure enough, it took about a week. So the question then becomes, where do you go from there? Well, when you look at that readings, yes, you have magenta over yellow. So we're probably going to get caught somewhere between this 0 and 23% for now. But this shakeout's still extremely ugly. Still no improvement on the extreme histogram down here. That was magenta bars, meaning we're below the red line at negative 60 range. It's a lot of distribution, so you get pop-ups, but they'll probably be selling into it, and most of any pop would just be shorts covering within this. Still way out of range here with treasury yields. And again, this just attracts more investment into the dollar, which is so funny because you constantly hear these stories about how the end of the dollar, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is oil prices going up. So what is oil traded in mostly, except for that new bifurcation now, and this is that discrepancy between the East and the West. Well, as oil rises, what do you need? You need more dollars in order to buy the oil, and hence, if you need dollars and you have euros, you've got to buy oil in those dollars. And what happens to your euro? And this is why I said it would be difficult for central banks to keep this one going, but they're going to have to intervene pretty soon because it's going to get out of control. And if you see oil continue to rise, it's going to further put pressure. And this also puts pressure on the S&P earnings because of the profits that a lot of companies from the S&P derive profits from. From a gold standpoint, very unusual to see that. But again, this is that pressure. It's like, okay, I'm getting a return yield from the dollar. Why do I need to be in gold? It's until you see the effects of the inflation that gold will then have to make its rise. So it's one of those where, like when we were watching TLT rising and we knew that that was completely counter to what was, expected, it just creates great opportunities. So just throwing that out there because the counter trade is always where price will end up moving things. And then from a Bitcoin standpoint, no real excitement here. And again, that will turn around as gold does, and that when it becomes less interesting to be in the inflation asset as far as the dollar. Once you start seeing those numbers go, then alternative currency, crypto, gold, that become more interesting at this particular stage. Not so much. And interesting little differentiation. You get ETH now looking a little bit better from a reading standpoint than gold, but not much better. So when we go to our 50K, you can see it's just been a long stretch of decay. It will be a fight back up towards the 50K, but red MBI led this, and what that usually indicates is that it's going to be a false pop. It's just a question of now waiting for that turnaround. Up near 49, so it's quite a ways from the 33, so it's got a bit of a drop before you would have a significant turnaround. You can see we went from the depths of shakeout almost to being positive again here, and once it gets positive, though, any dip down is going to be a bigger dip, and that would definitely break the lows if that's the case. So that's how you read that one. It's pretty straightforward. From the 5K chart, we started pre-market. Things were looking decent. Then right as we got to the early pre-market cash open for the U.S. market, selling started and just continued throughout. And it was just a question of waiting for that positive extreme to be filled in the daily standpoint. And it didn't take long. And then finished out about near the lows. So it was all pretty good action from that standpoint. You can see in post market, there's been a lot of recovery within that, but created a series of positive extremes. Um, Pretty close to have all been filled back. So from that standpoint, I think we're going to get a little bit of this relief because there will be buyers at that positive extreme level since that was the initiation of the move in the first place. And so they'll go ahead and cover those positions, but they don't want to do it too fast, too quick. Um, because that would just create a whole nother turnaround setup, which would not be bad because they're going to just turn around and use the opportunity to have higher price to do it all over again. And well, that's currently where we're at, particularly going into the end of the month. It's going to just continue to create more volatility, not less. And certainly, I think the moves both directions, I think, are going to be a little bit stronger than we've seen simply because now you're having a knee-jerk reaction to things. When the selling starts, that happens. But then if there's a turnaround, it becomes aggressive. Like, well, I don't want to miss the bottom if this, becomes the belief. But the question at this particular point is, you'd have a bigger rally simply because more people are predisposed to the idea that things have to go lower. And it's always when modalities get too strong in one direction that particularly when you don't have the actual evidence yet that those things are created. And so there's a degree of uncertainty because there's still reasonable economic activity. Things haven't come to a stop or anything that's visibly notable. There are problem areas, of course, but it's not universal. So that's the long and the short of it for now. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk in Skype chat. Look for me there.